Hello and welcome to today's webinar hosted by Packaging Europe in partnership with Avery Dennison. Avery Dennison, as I'm sure you're all aware, is a global materials science company specialising in the design and manufacture of labelling and functional materials. And to quickly introduce myself, I'm Victoria Hattersley, Senior Writer at Packaging Europe, and I'll be moderating today. So for any of you who may, shockingly, be unfamiliar with Packaging Europe, we're Europe's leading intelligence resource for European packaging professionals, and we deliver daily news content, analysis and interviews through our magazine and website. Now, the title of our presentation today is EcoDesign, the importance of manufacturing sustainable products, which I think we can all agree is a topic of importance to everyone. We're joined for this by Flor Peña-Herón, Sustainability Project Manager Europe at Avery Dennison. In a very short time, Flor will be walking you through the many advantages of eco-design and how it can be implemented. But before I hand over to Flor, there are just the usual housekeeping points to go through, and then we can get to the interesting part. So there'll be 15 minutes at the end of this webinar reserved for a Q&A session. Please do direct messages with your questions using the chat facility on the control panel, and we can put them to our presenters at the end of the session. You can send your questions throughout the webinar, and we'll try to get as many of them answered as we possibly can in the time allotted. Any technical issues could be addressed to Kane Brennan. So that's quite enough from me, and I'll hand over to Flor. Over to you.
Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining Everydenis with this webinar about eco-design and the importance of manufacturing sustainable products. If I just want to introduce a little bit myself. So I'm the Sustainability Project Manager for Everydenis in Europe, and I'm responsible for all the projects related to sustainability that are involving new product developments, recycling activities, and also external and internal engagement. For today's webinar, we have a small agenda, as you can see in the slides. So we will go through a little bit about the EcoDesign directive from the European Union, the benefits of EcoDesign, what is the life cycle of a product that probably all of you are aware of, a little bit about ecosystem engagement, the statistics and the trends that we are seeing right now in the market, and a little bit about design for recycling at Everydenis. So in 2009, the European Union put it in place, the EcoDesign directive. That means that they were focusing on establishing a great framework to set mandatory and ecological requirements for all the members in the moment that you are going to put a product in place in our market. At the beginning of 2009, this directive only covered 40 products, but nowadays this has been increased and several amendments has been put in place. The objective of the EcoDesign directive is that the manufacturer of energy-using product will, from the design chain, be obliged to reduce the energy consumption. At the beginning, it was more focused on all the equipment that they are using a lot of energy and how to reduce that consumption. Nowadays, it's also more focused in other areas, so like a material use, water use, pollution emissions, waste issues, and of course, recyclability, that, as you all know, is quite a big topic right now. Taking into account also the end-life collection from the design stage, as you have seen in the news in the last years, all about marine litter, a lot of discharge material that they are not recycled, or they are not putting in the right process for recycling, or they are not collected accordingly. With this directive, what we are trying to do is to reduce all those environmental impacts, because as you can see, 80% of product environmental impacts are determined at the design phase. You need to think proactively in your new product, put it in the market, on how that product will impact the environment in all the phases, not only at the consumer phase, but also in during your production, during the transportation, and during the use. And that is why EcoDesign Directive is evolving every year, and the European Union is doing amendments to this directly continuously. Why is the EcoDesign Directive important? Because we need to reduce as much as possible all the environmental impact we are causing right now for several reasons, not only for the climate change, but also for the change that we are doing in all our ecosystem and reducing biodiversity in many areas and not using the right product that will not impact heavily in some societies on some part of the world. Also help to eliminate the less performant product. That means that we are introducing and try to promote innovation within the industry to see that we are trying to achieve all the goals that in the last years the European Union and other governments around the world are putting in order to reduce this environmental impact. Especially the European Union puts a lot of goals for all the industries related to energy efficiency with the goal to reduce the greenhouse gases, not only because the European Union signed the Kyoto Protocol and the latest protocol, the Paris Agreement, and etc., because we see that the impact we are creating is accelerating the change of our ecosystem, and that will contribute the change of our way of life right now. It's also support the industry to make themselves the effort to be more innovative, to look for better alternatives, for better products. And at the end, it makes the competitive environment greater for everybody. Katie, if you can go to the poll, please.
Okay, so it's time for our first poll. It's quite a simple question today, but it'll be interesting to see how many people are actually familiar. So have you heard before about the eco-design approach or the directive? And it's a simple yes or no answer. I'm going to give you about a minute to answer this, starting from now. So Flor, maybe while people are answering, you could just tell me whether you expect most people will have heard of it.
I hope they are aware of that, and I hope they are also aware of all the standard guidelines that they are putting around eco-design, like the ISO 14006 or the ISO 14062 that is around eco-design in the manufacturing process.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that you probably would expect that most people will be familiar with. So it's going to be, well, it's going to be interesting to yes. see. So I think we have about 10 more seconds now before we check the results. So if anybody hasn't given their yes or no answer yet, now is the time to do it. Okay, that should have given everybody enough time. So if we have a look at the results. So yeah, 61% saying yes, 39% saying no. So is that a surprise to you anyway, Flor?
A little bit. I was expecting that more people are aware of it, but now is the time to be aware of it and try to look into there more carefully. So at least this webinar will help them to dig in more in the information that is available out there.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. I'll let you get on now with the second part of your presentation. So if you'd like to go ahead, and then after that we'll go to another poll.
Thank you. So related to why we think at Everydenis on the eco-design is important, is also because we see a lot of benefits on eco-design, and it is a general statement for everybody. So with eco-design, you can reduce the material we use in your process. You can try to reduce the energy you use during the manufacturing of those materials. You can try to think in advance how easily your product will be reused, if that is the main target for your product, or how your product can be recycled in an easy way. It's also important that you consider all the type of material that are available in the market, and considering to use as much as possible biomaterial or those materials that they are not producing a big impact in the environment or in the resources that we have on the earth. Also, it is important in the eco-design directly is that you maximize the life of the product. In the decades ago, so we were considering that some of the product they have what they say that the life of a product is certain by the manufacturer, and they are less and less every time. So I hear my grandma saying that the washing machine before was standing there for 20 years, and now if you are lucky if the washing machine is 10 years. So that is why we are coming back to the first statement that we need to maximize the life of the product and try to reduce the waste creating for those products that they don't stand longer enough as they should. Also, what is important in your thinking and your proactivity on designing your new product is to multi-purpose. Is that possible to use your product for multi-purpose uses, or is suitable for reuse? And the most important part, can your product be recycled? Because nowadays recycling is an activity that we need to increment, not only for all the directive and the legislation that all governments are putting in place. It's just a duty for everybody to try to reduce your own impact. The second part that we see in the benefit, of course, is the reduce of emissions. And we know how important it is to try to reduce those emissions, not only for making your manufacturing process more efficient, but also try to minimize the climate change that we are seeing so far. Climate change years ago was not considered something that will come, and now we see that it's coming faster than we expected. Being a biologist like I am and studying ecology for many years, when we start discussing it at university, people were thinking, well, this is the future, but I'm afraid that the future just has come too fast than what we expected. The big part of the benefit that EcoDesign will give it to you is innovation. That is making your development teams look for innovative approach to your products, to your product, and to the way you manufacture your products. Optimizing all the efficiency related to technological innovation available, new materials available, and at the end to make your products more sustainable in all the aspects. Customer satisfaction is a point that we see that the new generations are more aware of what is changing, that the environment is changing fast. They are looking for products that they are less impacted to the society, to the environment, to the life. And we as an industry have that duty to at least try to produce those ones as better as we can. And at the end, our customers will be happy. The commitment of the companies, they will benefit for all the innovations that are available in the market, and more companies are putting really high goals around sustainability. And that is the type of commitment that the companies should do, and we in Everydenis, we have our own sustainability goals for 2025, quite ambitious, but we are working hard to get it there. And it's also making your company different in the way you promote yourself. So then we create this market differentiation where sustainable products are driven more and more the trends around everything, the products that we put in place, the packaging around, the food around. More and more people are getting or looking for information about what they are buying, what they are eating, what they are looking for. And design at the end of the day is in everything. It's not only in the product we produce, it's around everything. And eco-design is to make those choices or those differentiations that you want to make in your product, that they are desirable for the people and try to minimize the environmental impact in your process and in your product. And at the end of the day, is along the life cycle by designing to have a more circular economy, a more circular system. Most of you probably have heard about the life cycle of a product. For us, and for most of you probably, this is an holistic approach of eco-design, taking in consideration all the parts of a product, from the use of the raw material, manufacturing, distribution, use, end of life. And what we are all trying to avoid, and we should try to avoid, is any landfill, litter, or incineration. Incineration is always a critical point. Some people are against that, some people are not, but sometimes we also need incineration to reduce the environmental impact. But the first and the most priority for everybody should be that everything you put in the market at least can be recycled as much as possible, so that we can have a circular flow of material coming back again and again, and you don't need to go back to the non-renewable sources that they are out there. And sooner or later, they will be gone. So we need to be creative and innovative to use all the materials we have creating right now. At Everydenis, we are really aware that eco-design can only be done if you have partners around and you understand your ecosystem. That is why we are working together with many organizations on the industrial level association, also with NGO, to understand what is our ecosystem. We are working with Petcore, who is an organization looking into the recyclability of all the PET containers put it into the market. CFlex is an organization looking into flexible packaging. PNAT is our organization for the label industry, where we have also sustainability goals for our own industry, where all companies related to labels are sitting together and look for a better choice for this industry. And of course, Plastic Recyclers Europe, among of others related to other type of industries like paper, glass production, and etc. Our ecosystem is quite straightforward. So we have our suppliers who are giving us the material. We at Everydenis produce what we call the lamination, so the label without any type of decoration, just the plain material. We produce 95% of our own adhesive. We can design our own adhesive, and that is really important to able to make our product more suitable for all the applications our customers are asking for. Our direct customers are what we call converters. Those are the companies who are printing and preparing the labels to be applied. Those labels will go to the brand owners, to the end users, where they apply the label on the container. And at the end, that label will be end in the supermarket in any type of packaging, from shampoos to tray of food to bottle of water, and etc. So that is our ecosystem, and we know that from this ecosystem we need to understand what are the critical steps to design our products from the beginning, that everybody has fulfilling their necessities. But the most important part, after the consumer disposes that packaging or that application, the recycler will be able to use the main packaging in this case to produce something else afterwards. And now, Katie, we have our poll number 2.
Thank you, Flor. Yes, time for our second audience poll. The question we'd like you to answer this time is your company also thinking about implementing an eco-design approach? And again, it's a yes or no answer. So while our audience has a minute to answer that, starting from now, Flor, I'm assuming you hope the answer will be yes. I mean, surely we all want to introduce eco-design to our packaging in some way.
Yes, exactly. I hope that everybody has made already the decision to take at least an approach on eco-design. We have done it in Everydenis. We implemented our own approach of eco-design. Each company has to make their own approach because every company has specifications in manufacturing and the product they do. But we are hoping that that is something that needs to be implemented all around any industry.
Yeah, it's certainly not a one-size-fits-all, is it?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. I can see we have this is your 10-second countdown again, audience. So anyone who is still mulling this over, we'd love you to get your answer in. Brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at the answers. It's a resounding yes this time, 93%. So that's encouraging, right, Flor?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Cool. Okay. Well, I'll now let you go on with your presentation. So back over to you.
Yes, thank you. So as we say in the agenda, there are some statistics and trends that we are seeing so far in the last 6 months. We do and we follow those trends because they are important for us. Design for recycling is something that we have seen also with our participation in all those organizations. That is really important that from the beginning, when you are thinking to put a product in the market, think about the end life of that product. And with the mind and the goal that your product at least should be recycled. I would say 100% is a really, really high target, but at least 80, 60, that should be a good target. You cannot design something without taking in consideration the end of life. That is not only because it will be in the coming years hardly legislated. We have seen in the last year the commitment from the European Union about the Green Deal. This Green Deal is going further and further. People were thinking that due to the pandemic we have right now, the Green Deal will be diminished. But as we have seen, there is a new chance to even coming with bigger targets from the European Union to be or to reactivate the economy, thinking more in green or more environmental friendly. And also we have seen all the legislation about that, the single-use plastic directive and the EPR scheme, extended producer responsibility scheme that every country is going to implement, not only European level where we have several of them working already, but also at the global level. And as we see also, so the amount of recycled content that they are demanding in the industry. We see a big demand from brand owners that are required to have packaging with recycled content on it. So we see that the European Union is putting really ambitious targets for the PET bottles. By 2025, 30% has to be recycled content. And as I said before, the single-use plastic directive, that is a target that all of us needs to think in terms of eco-design. If you are going to put a product in the market that will not be recyclable, we are not going to get those targets ever. So we need to be proactive as an industry and think about that before putting the product in the market. We also see that because people are thinking about packaging, most of the packaging around and the recycled material that we need to activate if we want to reach those targets are related to flexibles. And flexible is a big market and it's a complex market. They have many different types of material. And we have seen that design for recycling is also putting a lot of effort into the flexible industry to see how can we switch from multi-material to mono-material. So try to reduce the multi-layers in any flexible packaging. They sometimes were there just because we develop really good technical films to protect our goods in those flexible packaging. But at the end, we can also see that the innovation is going through to make those barriers needed in those packaging into mono-material, and you don't need to have many layers that will complicate the life of any recycler. And of course, all the directives right now are looking into bioplastic or biodegradable polymer. This is a high controversial trend that we see because, of course, those plastic, even though they have a really good qualities, if the consumer, we in our homes are not separating them correctly, and we don't have the right infrastructure all around Europe or all around world to recycle properly, at the end are creating many problems into the recyclers that they shouldn't receive that, or at the end consumers don't understand exactly what that means and they think they can litter those materials and will be compostable by themselves or biodegradable by themselves, and sometimes biodegradation can take quite long, so you don't want to do that. And as I mentioned before, compostable packaging is a trend that is coming more and more, especially in those countries that they have special legislation around compostable packaging, like is in Europe. We have Italy, who is really advanced in compostable packaging. And as a global commitment that we see that 100% of plastic packaging needs to be reusable, recycled, or compostable by 2025. So we need to go and try to develop more and more of those type of materials. And now we come into what Everydenis is doing about eco-design or design for recycling. As you can imagine, we are only producing labels. So we are a part of the main packaging. But being a small part of the main packaging also means that you need to be aware of all the qualities that the packaging needs to fulfill and how the whole packaging needs to be recycled. So we have decided to be more proactive and change the mind of our engineers and our developers, our procurement department and our marketing department, and be more proactive and focus more from the beginning in what that product is going to be, where that product is going to be applied, and depending on where it's going to be applied, also try to make it or enabling recycling or try to reduce the impact of our product in any type of recyclability activity. We have decided to take our own definition around eco-design. I think each industry should do the same because, as I said before, eco-design can be seen from a different perspective. We took the definition that for us, eco-design is a multidisciplinary and criteria-based process to develop products that will have the best positive social, environmental, and finance impact. We have a product development in place where we look at those three major categories from the social aspects, from the environmental, and from the financial, and to decide that if the product we have in mind, it makes good for those three parts of the sustainability criteria or environmental criteria. This tool that we have created and is implemented internally at this moment in Everydenis, it gives guidelines through the whole development process, from the ideation to the implementation, on how our product impact the entire value chain. That is why it's important for us to keep the contact not only internally with our own departments, but most important externally with our suppliers to understand what are the material out there that we can use, with our customers to understand what is the market needs, with the brand owners who at the end are they designing those packaging, and we can try to communicate to them what will be the best choice in terms of decoration. We are offering the center of expertise around our product and how our products should be chosen for any type of packaging. And we are trying to help the industry to reduce all the environmental impact that we can cause. And enabling recycling is one of the biggest goals that we have right now. Try to see that small label will not be a problem to recycle any packaging. But of course, this is a long process, and we are constantly developing our materials. And we have right now a portfolio who is focusing on that. And we hope that in the future we can cover all the demands of the market. That needs to be covered, but of course needs to be all together. As you can see here, we have a sustainable solution, or at least we are trying to minimize the impact of our labels in different type of packaging. You see here in this graph, for example, the different type of polymer that the packaging can be made of, and the type of label technologies that you can find in those type of packagings. Our labels are called pressure-sensitive labels or pressure-sensitive adhesives. That is what we produce. So related to the different polymers, we have developed an innovative label called CleanFlake. It has a special technology that has been developed by our engineers, taking in consideration all the recycling activities around PET. And this material is approved in Europe for the Association of PETCOR, and also for the EPBP, the Bottle Association. And we are innovating to get a better material or a better option of the next generation of the CleanFlake, because also we understand that the recycling world is changing and evolving, taking more consideration on trying to produce as best as recycled material, but also because we will see that the demand on recycled content is also going into a specific market like a food contact. And we know that the food recycled material needs to pass quite a specific controls to be that able to be a bottle from a bottle. And that is why CleanFlake is the right solution if you are going to put one of our labels in the PET container. For HDPE, so far we are working closely with the recycling world and the brand owners and our customer to get a better understanding on what are the quality, or what we call the CTQs, quality checkpoints for everybody, to understand what we need to be developing in that area. At this moment, we are choosing to have the monomaterial approach, so we advise our customers, if you are going to put a label in an HDPE, please try to choose a label that is made of PE material, and exactly the same for PP or for PS, polyester. In glass, we have the same approach that we have for PET. We have labels that has been designed and developed to wash off from the bottles. And we also have labels that can help the multi-cycle. Those bottles, they will be reused and reused for several cycles, and our labels will keep the nice and fancy appearance. And at the end, they are also designed to be able to recycle the bottle at the end of that multi-cycle life, because we don't forget that even though it's a multi-use glass, it will be recycled at the end. In terms of compostable foil, like I said, many countries are looking for the shopping bags that needs to be compostable. We have developed monomaterial to be applied in those type of packaging. We are constantly looking for the good components to make our adhesive compostable. But as I said, it is always a responsibility of the whole ecosystem to choose the right label to apply to any packaging. So we can help you with that choice. You can just call us and we can try to advise you what will be the best choice. Also for the cardboard, we have standard paper labels that can be applied in any cardboard, and we are trying to have the lower impact in the recycling of those cartons. I hope with this overview you will have a better understanding of what type of labels from our product portfolio you can choose in order to make the whole packaging a more sustainable packaging. And that was the end of my presentation. Before going to the Q&A, I would like to present the sustainability team of Everydenis in Europe. We have our Senior Director, Innovation, Sustainability and Compliance, Jan Hart. We have our Market Intelligence and Sustainability Manager, Anselma Jairo. And we have our Sustainability Marketing and Communications Project Manager, Roberta Bosu. And of course, you have hearing myself already for more than half an hour. So thank you so much for joining our webinar. We are happy to answer any of your questions. If we don't have time during this webinar, we will be more than happy to answer those questions later on. And Katie, I think we can open the questions and answer.
Thank you, Flor. That's very thought-provoking. Now, I can see that we've had some really interesting questions coming through, which is great. And do please bear in mind that if we don't manage to get to yours, as Flor says, the team will follow up with you individually after the session. So let's start with this one. Do you see eco-design as a new temporary trend or an approach that will last and change the approach towards the design of new products?
We hope that that is not the case. So we hope that eco-design is a trend that will stay and will be as a digital mark for any industry. So every industry should take eco-design in consideration. So I don't think this will go away. We have seen an increased amount of interest for customers, for companies to have and to reduce their impact and to have the more sustainable product in the market. So I don't think this will go on. It will not be a trend that comes and goes. It should be a trend that will stay.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And another one, do you think the public opinion, so that's consumers, NGOs and associations, will put more pressure on the industry for developing more material following the eco-design approach?
Yes, we have seen already the push from the customers to push to the brand owners, and at the end is coming up to us to develop more products that they are sustainable. There is the other part that people think sustainable is just a generic name. It's much more behind that word, and it's a lot of collaboration within the industry, within your own ecosystem that needs to be happen to have that in place. And we have seen in the latest years that industry is coming more and more all together to talk about the necessities of making these products available. So it will come from the consumers, but at the end it's also a conscience of the industry that we need to be more neutral in terms of impact to our ecosystem.
So a bit of a combination, really.
Yes.
Okay. Another question. Why is it important to have the entire ecosystem involved when implementing eco-design?
It is really important because you might know the needs of the recyclers, for example, but those needs are controversial with the needs of the consumer or with the needs of the end user, what we call brand owners. And sometimes for a small part of a construction like us in a decoration, it's important that we all talk to each other and understand what are the limits of our products and our applications. We can, as I said before, we produce the 95% of our adhesives. We can tailor-make our adhesives depending on the demand, but of course that demand needs to be, consolidated through the whole ecosystem. If we fulfill the needs of our customers or the brand owners, and we cannot fulfill the needs of the recycler because they are contradictory, then all the effort is in vain. We will not manage to recycle 100% of those packaging. So it's really important the whole ecosystem is talking to each other and understand what they can do to do this in place. We have put eco-design internally, and we have plans to put it externally, to do trainings to our customers, to do training to our to the brand owners on understanding our products. So that is our next steps. And that is where the collaboration of the whole ecosystem is really important.
Thank you, Flor. Thank you for that really full answer. Let's see, what do we have next? What are the challenges to the implementation of eco-design? That's a pretty big question.
Yeah, of course, you have your internal challenge. So sometimes to get the most sustainable products, you will need to do some investments in your manufacturing process. So that is a big challenge for any industry. So to be able to invest in all changes that you need. So we have seen, for example, changing the technology of our machines to be able to produce faster, with lower impact, with lower use of energy, with lower timing to produce our material. But the most important is, do we have enough support from the raw material producer to have those products that will be adapted to those changes that we need? And those are investments that all companies need to be done, and you need to take some risk and considerations about what you have to do to make your product more sustainable. So it's not only the challenge coming from the market pressure or from the consumer pressure or from the governmental and legislation coming out, but also for the changes that you will need to do in your own process. So it is a risky decision to go for eco-design, but it's the right decision. So we need to secure that we will be able to do those steps. And you can do those steps faster if your company can do it. And if not, just to make sure that even though you will go slower, you will get there. The important part will be there, and that we are more all together thinking about how to reduce the impact we have right now.
Thank you. We have somebody asking, when changing perspective like this, it's always important to educate employees internally first. So what is Avery Dennison doing about this? And do you have an internal training program in place? I guess you've already partially answered that, but is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, we indeed have implemented eco-design in our way of thinking. So we have, and we are, I'm not saying that it's a past tense, we are, and we will continue to change the mindset of all our employees by educating them on how important it is to have the view and the sustainability and all the aspects to get a better product in place. And we have put those programs in place, trainings, internal. We are also slowly trying to go outside. We know that it's important with this pandemic situation. Our programs has been stopped, of course, because sometimes it's not that easy to go and visit, and sometimes also this type of trainings, when you will have to answer a lot of questions, is more convenient to do the face-to-face. But that is, like I said before, we are planning to implement more of those training internally and externally. And at the end, we are also going to conferences to understand what is needed to present ourselves with our capabilities for everybody.
Great, thank you, Flor. And we have, during your presentation, you mentioned the life cycle of a product. Why is it important to take into consideration the entire life cycle?
It is important because you need to know where the impact will create a problem in the life cycle of a product. You need to understand from the beginning till the end, from the moment you are choosing your materials to produce your product to the end of that product. You cannot start thinking only in parts. You need to consider everything as an holistic approach, like we were saying. And the life cycle analysis is something that was created a long time ago. People think that is new. It's not new. I can tell you, I have studied life cycle analysis already for more than 15 years, so it's not new. and it's more complicated and depends on the level you want to go. Life cycle analysis is also related to the carbon footprint that everybody nowadays are talking about. So you can also see how much your impact evaluating what is the carbon footprint of your product. But of course, when your product is a part of another product, like I said, from labels, you are a part of packaging, then your life cycle analysis needs to cover also the life cycle analysis of the material where you are going to be applying. And your carbon footprint is one part of the total carbon footprint of a package. So that is why it's important to understand that the life cycle analysis is not only your part, but it's also the life cycle analysis of the whole ecosystem, where your product is and where your product is used and where your product is applied to, in this case.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. We also have, are you implementing EcoDesign globally, or is it only a European initiative at the moment?
No, indeed, we started here in Europe, basically because we see that Europe is driving much faster than other regions in terms of legislation, in terms of needs, and in terms of voice of the customers. But we are going to implement our EcoDesign tool in all our regions where we are present. So it's on the way. So we fully implemented here in Europe, and it's also a program that is continuously changing because we need to get the feedback from everybody, and we need to record the needs of all the regions. So we have started here in Europe, and we will go to the other regions, and at the end we hope that our tool will be finalized and recording all the needs for all the regions from all the customers in all the regions. So it will be hopefully implemented everywhere.
So something we should be keeping our eye on in the next few months then.
Yes, yes, you should indeed.
Okay, thank you. I think we do have time for another question. We have, are you also collaborating outside the EU in other regions, and could you share some insights on this, if so?
Yes, so the same that the team that you have seen in the presentation is focused in the European market. We have similar mirror teams in all the regions, and we are collaborating in other regions in the same way we do in Europe. For example, our colleagues in the US, they are also following the recyclers associations over there, the paper associations over there, the consortiums that they are formed from the brand owners to understand what are the needs. Exactly the same we are doing in Asia. Asia is a market who is developing really fast. So we are trying to gather as much as possible information because as you can imagine, we are a global company. So whatever we decided to develop as a market needs to fulfill at least 80 or 90% of all our markets. So we are not developing only from one region. We normally develop globally, but we can make tailor-made changes in the global developments to be adapted to specific needs from the region. So we look carefully what is needed globally, but even more carefully what is needed globally, so we can have the right choice for any customer around the world. And that means that you need to engage with the ecosystem in the different regions, and that is what we do.
Okay, thank you, Flor. Thank you for those answers. That's really interesting. Now, unfortunately, I think that's all we have time for question-wise, but I would like to thank everyone who sent them in. To let you know as well, this webinar is going to be available on demand within the next couple of days, and you will all be sent a link to access it in case you want to recap on anything you've seen or heard in today's session. We also have a few survey questions for you to answer on leaving the webinar, and we'd be really grateful if you could spare the time to do this. Okay, so that just leaves me to thank Flor very much. And do you have any final thoughts to leave us with, Flor?
No, we just wanted to enforce the message that please go ahead, investigate it, how you can use EcoDesign in all your products, in all your developments. And if you have any questions, we are more than happy to support you in any decisions, and to you can use our knowledge center in the product that we produce to be able to have the right packaging and the right label in that packaging.
Fantastic. Well, it's been great to hear from you, Flora, and thanks once again to all our listeners for your attendance. We hope you join us again for future webinars, and have a nice day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.